And good evening once again. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. For those of you that are lazy, guess what? lnp.tv. Either way, you hit the portal, you'll find the latest podcast, a whole archive of them, maybe 200-plus episodes. Maybe that's the way you'll spend your next week. Also, blogs, and, of course, the Facebook and Twitter feeds. A lot of good stuff there. And guess what? We got a YouTube stream up there now. It's not live. Sorry. It's kind of like a best-of playlist. So that site, again, is latenightparents.com. And once again, I'm happy to have Shawn Armor, good friend of mine, when I could say I've known someone for 40 years, and I'm not 50 yet. So, Shawn, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man.
Man, as always, our discussions, they get long in the tooth, and we can sit here and go back and forth over ideologies, and a lot has happened. There's a bunch of topics we'll jump into. For some of you that know, and you may not know, we are a radio show that airs on WRAQ 92.7 and 1240 AM WGBB. It's a 2-hour time slot. So what do you do for 2 hours? You think of providing content. Some of it live, some of it recorded, but it's just good, solid, thorough content. But, man, it's good speaking with you. It's been a while. It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
I mean, so it's usually, I would say, for the most part, you and I, we talk more in chat and text than actually speaking. So, it's, like I said, it's good to speak with you. It's a dying art.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I would agree. The art of conversation. You know what I mean?
You know, because nowadays it's
just even the art of, like, the quick flyby where, like, you'll see somebody on a train platform and you'll catch up in, like, 90 seconds.
Yes.
You know, even that's kind of an art. So everything's good, blah, blah, blah. You know, that kind of feeling.
It's good. You know, I didn't do anything crazy. I haven't been arrested since the last time we saw each other. Okay, great.
Exactly. Kids are all right. Let me catch this train. I catch up with you, boom. And that's
right, later.
You hit all the high notes, exactly.
Oh, my goodness, man. But I got to tell you.
You know who's good at that? Women.
Who's good?
Women can tell you. Women are really good at that. They can tell you a lot in a few seconds. So-and-so, she looks X, Y, and Z, and, you know, you're like, oh. So all kind of stuff the average guy don't catch. But anyway.
Man, I got to tell you, I know you are in Virginia. And how are you holding up with Hurricane Michael or Tropical Storm Michael or just...
Ooh. Yo, let me tell you something. As a native of New York, where we didn't get, I would natural disasters were were blizzards essentially. So every few years we get really ridiculous blizzards dropping like 3.5 feet on us. California, they have fire. But I got to tell you, that thing swung through here, and it wasn't even a hurricane when it swung through, but it was just a mean tropical storm. And yeah, it was it's crazy. It killed people, and it wasn't even a hurricane. It killed like 10 people.
I know.
So it's making me have a deeper respect. Well, I've always had a healthy respect for Mother Nature and what it can do to you if you're unprepared, even if you are prepared. But the idea that the system, we live in a terrarium, and we sort of ruined our terrarium, right? So where's the ants in this terrarium, in this closed environment? And we somehow mucked it up. It's crazy. I really don't know what's next.
I got to ask you a question and it might make you a little salty, or it might make some of our listeners that are in areas that hurricanes seem to frequent those locations a little salty. So let's say you're in an area, Shawn. And before I even get into it, best ways to follow Shawn, go to Twitter, type in Armor Intergalactic, and you'll get to see the plethora of his goodness on Twitter, and that will lead you to his podcast and all the above. But my question for you, my good friends and longtime friends, is if you are in the eye of a storm and your government officials ask you or tell you you need to evacuate, with you being Armor Intergalactic, knowing all, omnipotent, what would you do? What would be your response?
Now, mind you, I come to this looking like 30 years of just watching from television, like the nightly news. Oh, and this disaster happened in the Midwest. It was a tornado, and then like you see like the landscape scoured, right? And then like, oh, Midwest, there's flooding and the landscape scoured. Like I said, from New York, you don't have this, right? So you're just kind of like, wow, crazy. Now I'm in a place where this happens. My first position, and I used to think, why don't people get out? Now I'm like, just leave. And I'm realizing some people are really old. Some people don't have cars. Some people don't have family to get them out. And some people are looking after people who can't leave. You know what I mean? Some people are single moms with small kids who can't, so the idea that they just kind of tell you to get out if you can makes sense. But if you can't, they need to do something for those people. The problem here is they're not superheroes. They're people too. They shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? So the idea that you get into this horrible drama and you need 911, the cops will be dead getting to you. The ambulance will be blown off the road. It's just one of those horrible things. What do you do? If you can't leave, get out. You know what I'm saying? Go stay with relatives. But if you can't, you have to get to shelters or at least let someone know where you were last. But yeah, listen to the talking heads on your glowing idiot box when they tell you. Even the broken watches write twice a day. You know what I'm saying? In this case, this time, like your elected officials are absolutely right. If you can get out, you need to get out because these things, like I said, that storm was really, really powerful for a tropical storm. It was a hair under a hurricane, and it came through as a Category 4 after the first day being a 1. So It jumped up ridiculously. So yeah, you've got little ones too. I know all of our kids and young people make us crazy, but in times like these, the most important thing is to have a story to tell in 30 years about when they were 10, 11, and 12 and how, you were scared and it was a painful drive and we had to shove more people than we wanted in. But, we survived it because we left or we planned better or we just went to higher ground, even if it's higher ground inland and, sitting in your car because you can't afford a hotel. If you can get out, get out. If you can make deals with people, like I said, to be ferried out, do that. But, gosh, that was quite a thing to – I'll tell you another thing. These news correspondents, these weather people who go down there, and Ginger Z of the ABC News, I think the morning program, their national weather person, she looked terrified. She looked like it was her last day. She was telling us how the building across the street from her, literally across the street. Okay, no one listening on your show will have a reference for this, but you'll get it. Remember where we grew up, how far the back fence of the cemetery was. Okay. From our front, and we grew opposite each other. We were directly opposite each other. So from where our doors would meet in the front of the street, up to where down the street, across, the street to where the the cemetery gate was behind that guy's house is the distance that house was from her. You could see it. It was not that far. And the next morning, it was gone. And I think to myself, that woman was likely 200 yards, you know what I mean, from being in this position. She was in a house that survived it, but there were tons of houses around her that didn't. And it reminded me of a shell game, you know, the old Subway thing where you put a pea under 3 cups and you swap them around.
Okay.
You know, the wind sort of kind of did that with these houses. It could have been, it was a random pick, and she was in one of them, and the hurricane just happened to miss her. But she looked terrified. I mean, it's on video for all time, but yeah. I think they're going to have to readdress that because these storms are getting too strong to have people out in them holding wind barometers telling you that it's a hurricane. We know it's a hurricane. Telling us that it's a strong hurricane. We know it's a strong hurricane. I'm telling you.
With their network logo jackets and baseball caps.
Exactly. And then you know what happens? I can tell you exactly how this goes down. I've seen enough actual disasters, not disaster movies, right? First they're going to lose the feed, then they're going to cut back to the studio, and the people on the anchor desk will have that, oh, my God, did that really happen, look on their face as they go, oh, we lost contact with, let's say, Ginger Z. You can tag her in this. Oh, we lost contact with Ginger. We're going to check our affiliate and see what happened. And then, like, no one's going to hear from her until the storm passes, and there's going to be a lot of talk about, oh, our hearts go out. We're going to look at our procedures. Should we be sending people into – and you know what I mean? It's all until they're not going to fix it until someone dies, and then that will be the spiel because we're so used to the spiel. But yeah, stop sending those people into the mouth of the beast. I mean that hurricane was frightening, and it didn't even hit anywhere near me, and it killed 10 people.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here and say it killed 10 plus people, 5 in Virginia. Virginia alone.
Yeah.
So prior to the storm, I just want to give you a hypothetical question, and I'm not belittling anyone, but you're someone in an area that has been hit recently.
Right.
So let's say law enforcement knock on your door, and they say, hey, you got to evacuate. And someone hands you a permanent magic marker and says, okay, you don't want to leave, here, write your social on your arm. I think for that alone, shock value alone for me,
right.
I'm getting out.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Well, see, here's the thing about this society. Everyone is you can't hit people with the hard, honest, brutal facts of the day. You know, something dark like babies die, people recoil, but the sad, horrible fact of it is that cute little babies die. Right, so you live in this environment where people don't want to be confronted with their own mortality. So maybe going, okay, you don't want to evacuate. All right, how many people you have in this house? What are their names? Like a mini census. And on the back end of this hurricane, we'll come and see if your house is here. We'll know how many people are in here, and we can get a death list essentially running semi-accurately. So when we do finally hash out and give an official number, we won't be far off, right? So we won't go, oh, it could be 3,000 people or 100,000 people. We'll know if we're off by 50 people or so because we know who was where. I think people would have to be like, yeah, you know, especially if you ask for documents. Like, yeah, we just want to make sure you got driver's license so we can toe tag everybody properly. Yeah, I think that's a long-term, I don't want to say solution, but I kind of want to say solution because it reminds me of the smoking pictures on cigarette cartons, right? You may see that once and not quit smoking, but by the time you see it 15 times, you're like, you begin to think, I really need to quit smoking. By the time you've seen it 500 times, you're looking for ways to quit smoking, whether it's gum or cutting back or whatever. I think this will do the same thing. Maybe you didn't get out when they first showed up. Let's say if they started it last year in 2017. But when they come by in 2018 and you've seen some storms, you're like, yeah, maybe I should leave. Next time I'm not staying. So now next year in 2019, they got one less family to want to ride it out. And then your kids will grow up going, My parents didn't ride this out. We're not yahoos. We're leaving. So you can change the culture by being up. I don't want to say upfront, but I kind of want to say brutal, but more. I don't want to say brass tacks. I'm looking for words here, man. you have to forgive me. But they'll change minds by just these hard facts of what could possibly happen. I mean, oh my God, there was I want to say she was 11. She died in this storm. Debris hit her as she's in with her parents, and then nobody can, as this 11-year-old girl is hit with this debris with her grandparents in this storm. Nobody can come and get her. No ambulance, no fire, because at that point you are on your own. I mean, that's the one time in our society that you are on your own versus, like these war zones where there are no police to show up, no anybody, Yeah. So then what do you do? How would you stabilize this girl until the storm? And storm will be with you for 12 hours at a minimum. So, yeah, brutal. You got to get out.
Everyone know that we're talking with Shawn Armor, but you can find him on Twitter and on the Internet if you type in the word Armor Intergalactic.
On YouTube and Twitter, that's where you can find me.
You type it in?
Yeah.
And he's there, just like that, and all his goodness. And just educating folks out here. I know you might not have seen this the next topic I want to talk about. I just want to touch upon it real briefly, and we can move on.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I participated in a podcast called Barbershop Sports, and we used to get on there and have a round robin, and it would be rough and rugged. People yelling and screaming, and it was embrace debate, all the above. But there would be sometimes, and this is like pre-2012, we would talk about those topics that people wanted to talk about, but it wasn't PC enough. As we know now, this is the non-PC environment that we have stepped into. So I got to get a nod. A big nod and a big shout-out to, he might not be my favorite basketball player. I might not even like him on the court. But I got to tell you, in the entertainment world and also stepping up as an athlete in dealing with social justice issues, LeBron James, he has this one-of-a-kind show called The Shop where they get down to the nitty-gritty. It's like a one-of-a-kind barbershop experience, and it's a sanctuary for free-flowing and spirited discussions. I tell you, I watched episode 2 on the web. I've got to tell you, I think he's got something there. It's 30 minutes. It's maybe bi-weekly, and it's HBO, so you can drop as many F-bombs and all the above that you want.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm big on expressing yourself however way you need to express the idea. So if you're right and you can persuade people and it's covered in expletive, that's fine. However, if you can say it in as few words as possible and convey the same message, then that's your style, and that's fine too. You know what I mean? I hate people who kind of hijack what you're talking about by how you talk about it. If I say we need to save the fucking babies, excuse my language. If we need to save the doggone babies, I don't want you mad at me because I cursed when you missed the point that we need to save the babies. But I'm sorry, that's a side jaunt, please.
No, I hear you, and I just wanted to mention that the show itself, I like the fact that it's rugged. They're talking about real stuff that happens out there. They have real athletes on there and entertainers and people that just want to get people that are just not pushing their products, or whatever, sponsorship, whatever company is sponsoring them right now. So I thought it was pretty good. to segue from that, something extremely serious, what were your thoughts on that officer? I don't even want to say his name, that killed Laquan McDonald, that was indicted, and also he's in jail.
Yeah, I lost you there for a second. Yeah, that case is crazy because he's in jail. They wanted to put him in for first-degree murder. He pulls up, he just gets out the car and shoots this kid 16 times, right?
Right.
First-degree murder, depraved. And then they found him guilty of second degree, which means instead of mandatory life, he has 25 to life, which means he can get parole. But his partner, they arrested his partner, too, for conspiracy to fix this case, essentially. And not just him. They arrested the lead detective. So here's the problem that you now face with your department. You got caught in a shooting. You didn't give up the tape for a year. Once the tape is given up and people see what happens, you have to start firing people, right? You fire your police superintendent, which is essentially the police commissioner, the highest person in your police agency. You fire a prosecutor who kind of like also was trying to help them cook the books on this thing. You go back after this all gets out. The mayor isn't running again because he was also found to be. He's implicated in this, right? And I think he was found to sort of be trying to bury this case, to fix this case, this bad police shooting. And not only does his partner, who tried to fix it, he tried to bury this video, but the guy who showed up to investigate it, the chief detective who showed up to look into the shooting, is now arrested. So now they're going to be going to trial. So this is the body count, excuse my language, but excuse my reference rather, but like the amount of dirty hands on what should have been this is an unthinkable thing and this is a bad apple in our good department became, how do we cook the books on this guy, whether he was, I don't care if you had a pocket full of crack, somebody needs to tell me how pulling up, not even knowing what the situation is, and emptying your gun is good police work. You didn't assess a doggone thing, right? Not to say, not just that, but there were a ton of cops on the scene who had the same training as you, and none of them shot this guy. What did you see that they didn't see? You know what I mean? And they're walking next to him, and you're pulling up in a car saying you were afraid everybody else. Your whole "I was afraid he was going to kill other cops" argument implies every other cop on the scene is a retard in their job. So that's like 5 people who are caught up in this thing because police departments don't work in black communities. I don't know any other way to say it. I think.
So wait, I want to jump in here and stop you because you made a very strong comment. I don't want to speak on your background. I don't want to do that. Right.
Maybe let me rephrase that. The concerns, because the police departments don't work in black communities, is sort of a damning and too broadly a condemning statement.
That's on the level of George Bush doesn't like black people.
Exactly. So let me walk it back and take it down a different avenue.
Okay.
The problems in black communities that we want solved are not paid enough attention. The concerns that black people have in their communities about these bankers and these cops and these interlopers and people who show up to muck with the system to get elected. I'm here for your problem. Then they get elected, you never see them again. Are prevalent in the community. So when you yell out for help, it's Chrissy Genovese all over again. The woman who was murdered in New York City, screaming for help, and 60 people heard and nobody did anything. It's that, right? When I was a young boy, I grew up around flower children and Black Panthers, right? In the early days, my very early days in Brooklyn. And I remember the lessons that they used to give. And one of the things that I carried with me my whole life was when you want something, when you're trying to make progress, somebody will upstage you to distract from the conversation. And this is always going on. So, like, last year, I was telling someone else this. Tell me what you think. Last year, there was a lot of police shootings, and it was it was Black Lives Matter the last 2 years or so, and people were really talking about this. And then Hollywood showed up with the Me Too movement, and you haven't really heard anything about these shootings. But black kids still get shot on the average of one every 30 hours in this country, right? So you can't cover two stories. You know, you choose not to cover two stories. One is a problem that you can fix, and one is a problem that you can't fix. You can just chase, you know. It's like finding true love. You can write 1 million articles on that, write 1 million books on it, but it's not something that you can guarantee or fix, right? How people interact sexually, you cannot legislate that. Some people are going to sleep with people in the workplace, some people aren't. What you can legislate is crime. Prostitution is prostitution. Give me this for a little poozle. It's prostitution. You can legislate that. But this whole Me Too movement, more women in Congress, these are all power plays. Whereas the racial aspect of these police shootings, you can absolutely legislate. Why don't you shoot an unarmed person in a park who was 13? You're going to jail. Some people, it's will, and people have the will to look into this and go, oh my God, look at these snowy victims, these doughy-eyed blonde victims, right? Versus look who's getting killed over here, these blacks walking from point A to point B, usually black men who we don't care about anyway, right? So yeah, Black Lives Matter can happily be tossed aside and sell just as many papers as this Me Too thing, which is, mixed in with some of what I heard sounds like rape, and also mixed in with stuff that I hear that sounds like bad dates, and they all get the same kind of like wild attention. So, a large percent of the problem is when we have these problems in our community and we yell out, we need these fixed. People change the topic, openly ignore us, openly ridicule us, and we only see them when it's time to vote, which is coming in a couple of weeks. So here's the thing. People are talking about racism, Donald Trump and racism. They're talking about the Democrats, the Democratic Party wants you to go out and vote because they tried to take your vote, black votes, suppression and all this. But all this talk about race never, ever actually has anything to do with black people. You notice this? It's race as a theory of don't let the racists not let you get, Chuck Schumer reelected. But it's never talking about race any deeper than, the cop issue, the banking issue, and all the other concerns, the education issues that are the actual concerns of the people that you bring up race with, right? Minorities used to be black people. Now minorities are gay men, gay white guys. And I'm like, but you're a white guy. How are you a minority? Oh, because I'm gay. You're like, yeah, that's sort of like saying, you're part of the larger group. You're a gay white male, and white males run this place. So the whole place of who gets attention for their concerns is always sort of mitigated by the power structure, and the power structure isn't trying to fix our concerns so far. Who knows? You know what? It's 2019 next year. It will be 600 years. What is it? 1619 since the first African came over to the New World with the explorers. And that's some wildness. Is it 1419 or 16? I want to say 14. So 1492 we discovered the place. So it was like 1519. Might have been earlier. But yeah, so it's this long history of 500 years or so, and we're still asking for the same base benefits. Yeah, I don't know what got me off on this giant tangent when we were talking about Laquan McDonald.
Yeah, we were talking about Laquan McDonald, and we were talking about...
and I took him all the way around about how come the community...
Yeah, I just let you roll with it. I was okay with it. I just want to bring it back to, you mentioned policing in the community. We've had several talks, not just you and I, along with other panels on does community policing work? If it's done,
yes, it does.
I would say if it's done the right way, community policing works. But if you're policing the community, you just caught it that take on words. That does not work.
Yes, exactly. I agree 100%. You need community policing. You can't police community. What you essentially have is, an army of people who ride in from outside of town, and I'm talking New York and policing because that's the one I'm most familiar with. But those guys were coming from Westchester County and Orange County and Suffolk County, and they had no investment in the community. A lot of them grew up in all white communities where God only knows what white boys tell white boys about black people, right? So then all of a sudden they're in these black and Hispanic environments with a child full of stuff that isn't true. I relate a lot of this racial stuff with some people. Some people are bigots, right? And some people, there's a difference between racists and bigots, right? And I won't go into the difference, but essentially the idea of we all get bad propaganda growing up, right? And I equate it to what you're told about girls when you're a young boy, right? You get all kind of stupid stuff about women growing up, before you me, that stage when you're curious and you're talking to other boys about it, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And your last reference of that was, I guess, the Santa Claus issue when you're like young and you're debating whether Santa Claus exists. It's like how you get like this information. So like you take this back to race, which goes back, like I said, to I want to say 1419, but we've been here since the 1500s, right? So you take it back to that point, and you run into long-standing nonsense because racism is lucrative still in this country, right? You can pay black people peanuts to collect the trash and stuff. Still, remember the union who he was with the transit union, and he shut the union down, and Bloomberg came down to him, fined the union, almost broke the union, did all this kind of arrogant rich guy stuff, and all the unions just kind of watched it go down. Remember that? And that union was a minority union, right? It was largely a minority union. It wasn't like the PBA, which is I would call a AAA rated union. They go up to Albany all the time and lobby, and they have
it's an actual union that means something.
Yeah, they're very, but you wouldn't have tried that with that union. You wouldn't have tried it with the fire department union. You wouldn't have tried it with several serious unions in New York. But you could
financial
do it with that
backing.
union.
Financial backing says a lot.
Yeah. Look,
that's
you know how people break into countries and take over when there's a coup, right? They go for three things essentially when there's a coup. They go for the media to keep the message in the way that they want it. They go for the military to make sure that they have control of the fighters and the weaponry and stuff. And they go for the airports so nobody can come in and nobody can leave. So what we have here in the black community is we don't have any communication. When we scream out that the cops are unfair, people blow us off and ignore us. And now in the age of cameras, people are acting like, oh, is that a new thing that cops do this and plant, these bad things and are wholly unprofessional and inappropriate at work? Why are you surprised? And
I had to chuckle with what you were saying because, no, this is stuff we've been saying for the last 30 years. That's been said. Yeah,
exactly. Openly saying this.
Asian American, Indian American, you name it.
Yeah, exactly.
And even other white Americans have also said it. It's at any time.
I mean, that's the thing. People keep acting like every white person is a racist and is for this. Some people see this. Some people are living in a bubble, right? And they don't. I mean, they hear stuff, but they don't see anything, and they think, well, that guy is whatever. I'm not going to describe what they're thinking, but they've grown up in an environment where that was said was people won't work. And then you move into the city from wherever, and you see somebody get openly disrespectful. And you see it from beginning to end. Cops walk up, you can't sell cigarettes here, and you're watching this from your tenement trying to go to Columbia, So then you see it with your own eyes. And you may have an investment in it because you pass him every day, 2-3 times a day, going to school, going to work, and he may have held the door for you, say hey to you, like help you hold a cat. That random guy in the neighborhood stuff that you know and you like. And then all of a sudden you see this thing take place from stem to stern. The cops are mean or unfair, whether they beat him up or they arrest him unfairly and cart him off. And you sit there and you go, the stuff that they told me, because people are always trying to sell you a more sensationalized story. Oh, don't take the New York City subway. It's X, Y, and Z, right, back in the 70s and 80s. And none of that, some of that was true because there's bad guys all around. But when you get one bad guy, they talk about that one bad guy like it's everybody. So you get this, that one black guy robbed that white lady. They're all like this. Then you build on history, right? And you see one thing from the news and you're happy to extrapolate it wrong. Just like you see some blonde white woman on TV who's accused of, sleeping with a kid, and the first thing you want to do is make light of it. Oh, that lucky kid, and da-da-da-da. So you want some stuff not to be crime for some people, and you want other things to be punished harshly. And the problem becomes the people in charge who are supposed to take their concerns seriously play these games, and then that leads us back in why the FBI is a organization that somebody should ask more questions to, which leads us into politics. But this is where we are.
Yeah, this is definitely where we are.
That Laquan McDonald shooting is just crazy. I'm sorry.
Hey, this is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. We're talking with Armor Intergalactic, Shawn Armor of the Armor Intergalactic Podcast. I'm going to say a name to you. I'll take the lead on it because I'm not sure how in-depth you are into sports. I'm going to say the name Odell Beckham Jr.
I love me some Odell Beckham.
He's a great athlete. He's exciting. He's on the New York Giants. And disclaimer, I'm a Jets fan, but I have attended New York Giants.
I'm a Giants fan. I like the Giants. I always have. So I may be a bit biased here. But you were saying, what's the story about Beckham?
Well, the deal with Beckham, Odell Beckham Jr., last week, prior to last week's game, which they lost by 2 points.
In the last 7 seconds, I was, man, don't even get me started.
So there was an interview.
Go take a walk.
There was an interview that took place with Josina Anderson from ESPN and Odell Beckham Jr. And you think, okay, fine. But Lil Wayne was there. And he was kind of sitting there as the hype man.
Right.
And Beckham then went on to not only trash his quarterback, Eli Manning, but he also went on to...
Did he trash him really, though?
No, he didn't. I mean, at the time, it sounded like, when we were watching the video, he was trashing Eli Manning, and he was also had a few words of wisdom about Pat Shurmur, his new head coach, about, opening up the playbook and throwing the ball deep. And
he wants to, exactly. He wants to catch it over the middle and take it to the house.
But here's the thing. The thing is, he just signed a $95 million contract. 5 years, $95 million, and $65 million of it is guaranteed.
So talk.
Here's the question. That just because he signed that contract, does that make him a leader on the team?
Yes. You made him do that contract. You let him know that he's valuable. So why does he not have to be quiet? You know what I mean? You told him his value with this huge contract, with 2/3 of it guaranteed up front, right? They gave him the maximum contract, didn't they? 5 years, isn't the 5 years the max in the NFL or some shoes like that?
Yeah, roughly.
Nobody gets much longer than that.
No, because you can go down at any minute.
because that right there is a third of a long career, if I'm being honest, right?
Right.
5 years, and if you play generally 14, 15, 12 years, that's a huge chunk of. So that's
but most players don't even get to play that long.
Yeah, they get 2 and 3 year, 4 year contracts. No trade clauses and stuff like that, and bonuses make it. Yeah, but here's the thing: you can't look if you're a thoroughbred, right, and you come to my racing establishment, and you don't the level that you're at as a pole jumper or marathon runner or pitcher or whatever you are, everyone agrees that as a specimen of what you do, you are great. Whether you are a corner or a quarterback, everyone agrees. So when you go, I don't want to muck up his language, but he didn't say anything with anger or any malice. He seemed to me to be kind of thinking out loud that it'd be nice if we were preparing for this. And I like Eli. He's still got a good arm, but he's immobile. He doesn't leave the pocket, and he's a little off. He doesn't, so his criticisms were warranted, right? Since his criticisms weren't dealt in, with malice and they weren't lies, why is he fined? You know what I mean? I mean, they're talking about people were upset.
Yeah, people were upset. Yeah. He had to apologize to the team.
You know what? But people are going to be upset. You have once you tell me your opinion, people are going to be upset. Once we're talking about any real issue, other than
you're going to offend someone. You're going to offend someone with your comments. That's where we are nowadays.
Exactly. Exactly, and it goes with having a dialogue. I mean, look, we're getting to the point where people expect everybody to get hugs for saying, agreeable stuff. And once you go, well, I like him, but he is getting a little old. He doesn't have much mobility, and sometimes he's a little off with his throw. And I would like him to throw it deeper. Small routes are fine. Secondary pickups is fine, which is what he was complaining about. I want to be able to catch it in the middle and get loose, get open, get the highlight reels going, which is what people want. You want a showman. It's still entertainment. Yeah, it's sports, but come on. If Odell Beckham and Eli Manning were clicking ridiculously, and every time they went out, they threw 7 touchdowns or ran for 7 touchdowns, people would like to watch them and people would applaud, but it wouldn't be, people want nail biters. People want, like the game last week that they lost. If the roles were reversed and they pulled off that 65-yard kick with freaking 4 seconds left, I'd have been like, I love the Giants, but I just have to be on the wrong end of it.
Right. I will say this much: he looked
drama.
He talked, regardless of what was said. He seemed like a fortune teller, because when I watched the game on Thursday, everything that he was saying about Eli's immobility and lack of
that secondary dumping, right?
It was I don't know. It was like he was doing his own forecast, his own prediction, his own bold prediction on the game plan. So
look, people want you to go, he's crazy, he's kicking nuts. What happened to passion? If he was doing this and running and then doing, they'd be like, oh man, he's so passionate, But there's a dark thing about sports, right? It has this all-father feel to it where these white commentators sit and not just judge your play. Sometimes they judge your character. Sometimes they ascribe stuff to your actions, and a lot of it can be negative. And you're like, who do I write about this? Because, it comes across as, how dare you question his mental stability? The guy's a college graduate. If you don't think he earned his college degree, then get in it. You're a journalist, right? You're a sports journalist. But if that's not the route that you're going down, don't call the guy crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe he's fired up and winning which is why you gave him a giant contract with so much guarantee, because he's not a drone. He's not a robot. He's supposed to be passionate. And this is
segue really quick from this because we're running out of time.
Sorry.
There's two other topics that I hope we can get to. And they're kind of dicey. So this is Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. We're talking with Shawn Armor of Armor Intergalactic Podcast. I did not watch the video because it was cringeworthy. Kanye West's trip to the White House.
Yeah, I tried to watch it like 5 times. I'm just kind of like, I'm out.
I couldn't watch it. I really couldn't watch it because I just kept thinking, you know, I've had so many different people, so many different counselors and mental health awareness advocates on the show and over the years.
Right.
That I really, you know, and it's not whether he leans left or leans right. I just, you know, when someone can say, hey, I had a mental breakdown, or hey, I was doing this, or you sit there and say, you know what, this gentleman, he needs help. So before anyone could throw shade, I'm hoping some of
the... So the opposite of the last conversation we had about
throwing shade.
Crazy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. But the people that are throwing shade, I hope at the same time they're also looking into seeing that this person is getting some type of help.
Yeah, no, they're not. So this is almost the opposite of what we just said about these guys ascribing craziness to Odell Beckham, right? Now you got the same people ascribing craziness to Kanye West, and they may, you know, now, 1 minute you want us to all go, you know, we should have some respect for the mentally ill, and then they start ridiculing the mentally ill, like Kanye, if you believe some of these people who say that he's mentally ill and openly ridicule him anyway, versus Odell Beckham, who's got no history of mental illness, and they're still calling him crazy. You know what I mean? So, and this is the same media. Kanye West is all over the place. Man, look, he raised some good points, and then he just gets into weird, I guess, conspiracy theories, I'd call them. If he just said, you know what, we need police reform, we would all be like, and then he's sort of like Trump, where you can't take his mic, stop him right there.
No.
But at the same time, you know, you want to ridicule him, but you want to hold up all these other people who are famous for selling drugs. You know, like I tell people, I mean, Kanye West does music and he doesn't rap about selling, like, drugs, or he raps about what everybody else raps about. And there's a lot of sex and smoking weed in his music. But it's not any of the hateful stuff. And when I hear people say abandon Kanye, the first thing I think of is there's a lot of other people I'd abandon first who actually did bad things, right? And Kanye falls under Kanye's essential sin is we in the black community do not like black Republicans, right? So instead of just going, meh, he's viewed as like a traitor to the cause or something. And that press conference led to the CNN bit where they were giddy with how superior they were over Kanye.
Well, and that's, we can segue to, you know, and it's a touchy topic. CNN and the use of the word Negros.
Yeah.
Don Lemon's show, you know, a panel of 4, 3 people up there are African American. There's one gentleman who's white American, and you can see the look on his face because he's the person leaning towards the right on the panel for that specific segment. And
oh, really?
It was a lot of looseness in the use of the word, you know, and I think
it was all derogatory.
Right, like Bakari Sellers, he took himself down a notch or two with, you know, and I guess nowadays
that Negroes who don't read comment.
Right.
Arrogant. Look, man, let me just say something about this bouginess. about some of these educated black folk. You need us, right? We may not have your sheepskin, your, educational history of this fantastic resume you have, but the majority of people don't have college educations, right? The majority of people working for a living, dirty hands, we read what we like if we choose to read. And if we choose to read, something tells me a lot of these people still wouldn't like it because they all seem to read the same books, right? So if I'm over here reading, Lord of the Rings, because they'll let that go because it's a classic, it's been around 100 years. But if I'm sitting over here in the corner reading, the latest dirty Stephen King novel or Patterson novel out of the grocery store, they'll still look down on me. It's the word, the way they use that word said a lot about them. And then they try to dump it off as it's cultural, how we use it, right? So they want to go, the Negros who don't read comic, they want to attribute to Chris Rock, I read later on. Yes. And but they used it several times. They also called I don't want to say coon, excuse my language, but they called them Uncle Tom. Oh my God, I forgot how
we can.
Yeah, but it was. I forgot how they worded it.
We can skip that.
I was just kind of like, look at these people. Look at these people. But it's this idea of, I think they got a little ahead of their skis with their attitude toward Kanye. And it said a lot about them more than it said about him.
No, I think unfortunately, you have CNN that's, to me, you have Fox News, which leans heavily right. You have CNN that leans heavily left, and they are the mirror image of each network. And I think, we're running more into some of these analysts or these broadcasters, these anchors, and like you said, they're feeling themselves. They're feeling themselves because they're like, hey, my network gave me the go-ahead to be a little bit, risque.
Yeah, urban and hip and cool and whatever they think. They want a bit of that hip hop sprinkling. They want some of that flavor, so they want to. Excuse me. They want to, all season it, just kind of sprinkle, but you can't get too ahead of yourself because you will be gone. Every now and then, people feel themselves like Don Lemon is feeling himself. And he'll go too far. He'll call somebody some ridiculousness, and he'll go too far. I mean, didn't Bill Maher go too far with
Yeah, he did.
What's his name? He was like, I will beat your butt in the middle of the street, and then because people go too far, and then he reined it in a lot. So you ever watch
it gets down to the point, like you said, you start feeling too comfortable, and you think you're in your house, but you're asking to, 33 million subscribers or, however many, it just gets to that point.
Exactly.
Hey, last topic I do want to discuss with you.
Yep.
Saudi Arabia and that journalist getting, heard in the audio.
Okay, here's the thing about this.
Mm-hmm.
So Iran has, and as of this morning, they're saying that the American embassy heard the tape because first I was like, how do you hear somebody murder this guy in an embassy? He was smart. He set his watch phone to record, and by the time I guess they beat him up and murdered him and stabbed him up and started cutting his, they take the jewelry off last. So they heard all that horrible stuff from the confrontation, the initial confrontation, to him being abducted into a room, to them beating him up and asking stuff until them killing him, and then later they say them dismembering him because it was still recording. And it's all stuck on his cloud, his Apple Cloud.
iCloud.
Exactly, his iCloud. And I'm like, I've had the same position for a while now. It's odd that this comes up. But it's essentially remember 15 years ago when we went into Iraq and they were shooting at the American soldiers from mosques, and then the people were going, whoa, mosques are sacred. We can't shoot at a mosque. We can't bomb a mosque. And people were like, but they're shooting at us from mosques, right? So they were using these mosques as bases. This is sort of what this whole thing like strikes me as, right? They use this embassy as its base, right? So if you're shooting at me from your mosque, your building ceases to be a mosque. It ceases to be a house of worship. I'm gonna blow it clean to high heaven, with whatever ordinance I got. If your embassy is used to commit to what is when you have somebody walk into like the trap to entice and then kill, to beat up, torture, kill, then dismember this person, you cease to have an embassy in my country. If they don't do anything about this, this just goes to the further ruination of this country, hands down. I mean, and this also is, if you know anything about Middle East politics, the enemy of my enemy is my friend stuff, we have an issue with the Iranians, so they come across this. Now they kind of want to cozy up to it, so they released this preacher who they took as kind of like retaliation in the first place. So, look, if you're sitting between two guys, one's, a dark and sinister and evil person, and the other one is an evil and sinister and dark person, who do you side with? You know what I mean? One is standing there with a bloody axe, and the other one is standing there with a bloody hatchet. Who are you siding with? And this is what we've gotten ourselves into. I mean,
dude, I want to say that this conversation is too good. We're gonna have to have another session.
We'll finish it next time.
Definitely have to have another session, man. It's been too good, but too long. We got to do this more on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Hey, as I mentioned before, Shawn, as always, it's great to have you on. The Armor Intergalactic Podcast, also available on Twitter, streaming everywhere. When's the next new one coming up? When's the next new podcast going up?
We're going to try and put the next new pod. It's been an eventful summer. I haven't been up for a while, but we're going to get the next one up likely by next Friday.
All right, man.
We're going to get it up this week. All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, man. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Peace.